We don't explore space with rockets anymore. We explore it with code. Beneath the polished surface of your favorite distro, hidden under years of graphical interfaces, init managers, and container orchestration, there is a fossilized layer of system calls that hasn't changed in decades. Today, we bring it to the surface. Today, we uncover how historical accidents became the permanent laws of computing. There is a number that no process on Linux can claim, a number the kernel reserves before you can even ask for it. That number is 1. And the process that holds it isn't there by accident, it's there by contract. When the kernel finishes loading itself into memory, when it has initialized the drivers, mounted the root file system, done the bare minimum to make an operating system run, it hands over control to a single process. PID1. In the original Unix tradition, this was init, a program so simple it could fit in a few kilobytes. Its job, to be the parent of all other processes. Adopt the orphans, reap the dead, stand at the center of the tree. That logic, a single process as the ancestor of all others, comes from the original implementation of execsit in the 1970s. Exec doesn't create a new process. It replaces the current one with a new one. The PID stays, the context stays, only the running code changes. That choice, made by Ken Thompson and Dennis Ritchie, for the sake of simplicity and the memory constraints of the time, created a process hierarchy that still works today in every Docker container, in every Kubernetes pod, in every Linux system on the planet. And here's the first archaeological truth. Modern containers are still children of a process hierarchy conceived in 1969. Every time you launch a container, the process inside it is a child of something. And that something, whether it's tiny, whether it's dumb init, whether it's your init, must behave like PID1, because the kernel doesn't know it's 2026. The kernel only knows that PID1 must handle signals, must reap terminated processes, must stay alive. The question we have to ask ourselves is this: why, after 50 years, haven't we found a better abstraction? The answer is uncomfortable. Because it works. Not because it's elegant, not because it's the right solution, but because every layer built on top of it has chosen to lean on it rather than replace it. This is called path dependency. And the Linux kernel is its greatest monument in modern software. There is a ghost that lives inside your programs. You don't see it, you don't call it, but when it arrives, it interrupts everything. It's called a signal. POSIX signals are one of the oldest inter-process communication mechanisms still in active use in modern computing. Born in the Unix era as a way to notify processes of asynchronous events, a Control-C key press, the death of a child process, a timeout, they still exist today, identical in structure, in every POSIX system in 2026. Sigkill, Sigterm, Sigstop, names that sound like they came out of a 1978 manual, because they did. Now consider this scenario, a high-frequency trading application running on Linux. Latencies in the order of microseconds. Every nanosecond matters, and somewhere in the kernel, an asynchronous interrupt, a signal, can interrupt the main thread at any moment. It doesn't matter what it's doing. It doesn't matter if it's in the middle of a critical operation. The signal arrives, the signal handler executes, the context switches. This is the technical debt of Sigkill and Sigstop. They are blunt instruments. They cannot be caught. They cannot be ignored. They do not respect modern memory safety layers. They know nothing of async await, of lock-free data structures, of any abstraction invented after 1980. And yet they are still there. Still necessary, still fundamental. How is it possible that in 2026 we haven't replaced them? The answer lies in the foundations. Every language, every runtime, every operating system has built its own error handling on top of signals, not instead of signals. And yet something is changing. eBPF, Extended Berkeley Packet Filter, is how we observe the kernel today without modifying it. With tools like BPF trace, you can attach yourself to the signal delivery path and trace every signal sent to every process in real time. In a sense, we're using technology from 2020 to look inside mechanisms from 1972. Archaeology is always a work of the present. Zombie. In the Linux kernel, a zombie is not a metaphor. It's a precise documented state with a specific letter in PS. A zombie process is a process that has died. It has finished executing, but whose record in the process table still exists. It waits for its parent process to call wait. It waits for someone to collect its exit status. If the parent never calls wait, the zombie remains. It occupies a row in the process table. It doesn't consume CPU, it doesn't consume significant memory, but it holds a PID, and PIDs are a finite resource. This logic, the parent is responsible for collecting the child, is so deeply embedded in the kernel that it survives intact in the architecture of modern containers. In Kubernetes, every pod has at least one container. Every container has a root process. It's PID1 inside the namespace. If that process doesn't correctly handle sick-heal-de, the signal that notifies the death of a child, zombie processes accumulate. In 2026, with clusters managing thousands of pods, the zombie problem is a real scalability problem. But there is a further complication. Orphans. When a parent process dies before its children, the children become orphans. The kernel automatically adopts them, reparenting, assigning them to PID1. This is why, inside a container, the PID1 process must be a proper init. If it doesn't handle reaping, orphans become zombies, and the container accumulates dead processes that never disappear. The parent-child relationship between processes, a structure born from the simplicity of the original Unix design, has become an architectural bottleneck for the distributed systems of 2026. Modern systems add layers of abstraction, namespaces, C-groups, orchestration, but none of these layers eliminates the problem. They hide it, they manage it, they work around it, they don't solve it. Because solving it would mean breaking 50 years of POSIX compatibility. Everything is a file, 4 words, the founding philosophy of Unix, and one of the most influential design choices and most costly in the history of computing. In the original Unix, this abstraction was genius. Terminals, pipes, sockets, devices, everything could be read and written through the same interface. Open, read, write, close, a unified interface for a complicated world. Simple to learn, simple to implement. But the world has changed. A modern NVMe drive can handle millions of operations per second. Access latency is in the order of microseconds. Bandwidth is in the order of gigabytes per second. And select, the system call introduced in BSD 4.2 in 1983 for I/O multiplexing across file descriptors, select is still there, still in use, still the universal fallback for any application doing I/O across multiple sources. Select has a limit of 1024 file descriptors, a limit hard-coded into the FD set structure. A limit from 1983 that still causes bugs in modern systems when someone crosses that threshold without noticing. Poll solved the numerical limit. Epoll solved the efficiency problem at scale. But all of these solutions share one fundamental assumption, that the file model is the right abstraction, and this is where IO-Uring enters. IO-Uring, introduced in Linux kernel 5.1 in 2019, is the acknowledgement that the file abstraction is not enough, not for NVMe, not for high-speed networking, not for anything that requires low-latency asynchronous I/O. IO-Uring doesn't read a file. IO-Uring submits operations to a ring buffer shared between user space and the kernel. No system call per operation. No unnecessary context switch. Just operations queued, processed in batches. The simplicity of the POSIX interface, which for decades allowed any programmer to learn Linux in a matter of days, has generated an invisible overhead that we now pay in latency, in CPU cycles, in energy. Everything is a file is still true, but it's becoming less and less sufficient. What have we found? Digging. We found that PID1 is not just a number, it's a contract, a responsibility, a choice you cannot ignore even if you're writing a Go microservice in 2026. We found that POSIX signals are primitive asynchrony that still dictates the terms to runtimes, languages, and frameworks built decades after them. We found that zombies are not a problem of the past. They're a Kubernetes problem. They're a container problem. They're proof that modern abstractions sit on top of foundations that have never been redesigned, only covered over. We found that everything is a file produced one of the most democratic programming interfaces in history, and an invisible overhead that only now, with IO-Uring, we are beginning to measure honestly. And we found something deeper. Deep space knowledge is not nostalgia. It's not romanticism for the systems of the past. It's the only way to understand why the system behaves in ways that no modern documentation explains. When your application scales poorly, when your container gets stuck in an impossible state, when your latency spikes without apparent reason, the cause is often in one of these hidden depths. Engineers who add layers of abstraction without understanding what lies beneath build fragile systems. Engineers who descend, who understand exec, who read init code, who know what happens when a process dies with no one to collect it, these engineers build systems that last. Exploration doesn't teach us to go back, it teaches us to build better going forward. The core is still down there, beneath systemd, beneath Docker, beneath Kubernetes. Beneath every layer of abstraction we have added to make Linux easier, more scalable, more modern. The core doesn't lie, the core doesn't evolve, the core waits. And if you're here, on this channel, watching this video, you're probably already the kind of person who isn't satisfied with using the abstraction, who wants to understand what's beneath the surface. Welcome to the deep space of your system. See you in the next video, and as always, may Linux be with you.